Hello, ladies and gentlemen. In this video, we are going to see about the Constitution of India. Constitution. Constitution is a set of laws or rules for the governance of a country. So, Constitution is nothing but a set of laws. If you take an example, you take any constitutional post or any organization of a government like president, vice president, prime minister, vice president, then chief minister. If you take any constitutional post like this, they are act according to the rules and regulations. They are functioning according to the laws of a government. Likewise, High Court, Supreme Court, then many offices of a government were functioning according to some rules and regulation. And these rules and regulations was also known as articles. Articles or laws. So these articles and laws was useful for the functioning, useful for the guide for the efficient functioning of a government. So set of these articles and laws for the governance to govern a country, to govern a people. So that is what is known as a constitution. So constitution is a set of rules or articles or laws for the governance of a country. So everything was functioning in our country according to the rules and the regulations. So and set of these rules and regulations is known as a constitution. So if you take in Indian Constitution was enacted by the Constituent Assembly. So Constitution Assembly consists of experts, group of law experts, group of other government related experts, economists, lawmakers. So these group of experts were forming a different committees, and these different committees join and work together to frame a constitution of India. So these group of committees, these group of experts were known as a Constitution Assembly. So we are going to see about the Constitution Assembly and its formation and functioning in another video. Now next we are going to see about the salient features of Indian Indian Constitution. So salient features of Indian Constitution. First one is the Indian Constitution is a very lengthiest one in the world. So it consists of 395 articles. So as already said, what is meant by articles? Articles is nothing but a laws for the guidance, used for the guidance. Laws were useful for functioning of every offices and every constitutional post. And the Indian Constitution consists of 395 articles, which was grouped into 8 schedules. This was a number which was original one. Whenever the constitution was framed, it consists of 395 articles and 8 schedules. But at present, in today, it consists of 448 articles and 12 schedules. So these articles numbers was increased and these schedules were increased due to the amendment from period to period, because our lifestyle was changing. Before 70 years, there will be no internet at this large. There will be no social media. There will be no internet. So our present day life was changed when compared to the last 75 years, 76 years. So the lifestyle of a people keep on changing due to the advancement of a technology, due to the other related matters. Constitution rules and regulations were also keep on changing. New rules were framed for the evolution of for functioning of new things, for governance of new things. New rules and regulations were also framed. So that's why that is the reason for the increase in the number of articles and the schedules. Second feature of an Indian Constitution is that it is a blend of a rigidity and a flexibility. So rigidity is nothing but it was a fixed rigidity is rigidity is what is known as a fixed one. If you are saying something as a very fixed, it is unable to change. We name it as a rigid one. Flexibility is a changeable. It keeps on changing according to the situation. So Indian Constitution is not also a rigid and also a flexible. It is not entirely rigid. It is not entirely rigid and it is not entirely flexible. Some part of a constitution is a rigid and some part of a constitution is a flexible one. So some articles can be amended by the parliament. So take for example, as already said, Indian legislative consists of consists at two levels. One is a union level or central government level, which is a parliament, and every state has a state legislature. So some subjects of Indian parliament, Indian constitution, some articles are framed by the uh, parliament. Some laws were framed by the parliament. Some articles can be uh, amended by the parliament. Some laws were framed by the state legislature. Some rules and regulations were framed by the state legislature. We are going to see a detail about these state and central subjects in upcoming videos. Now I am telling it in a general. So some articles can be amended by the parliament itself, but some articles require a state legislature assent. So, take for example, some articles can be amended by the government. In some it consists of a 448 articles right now, and it consists of a union subject and a state subject, because some articles was only changed by only amended by the union government or union legislative only, and some articles and some rules and regulations were framed by the state legislative. So whenever some articles of a constitution requires a state legislative assent for its amendment. Take for example, election of a president. So election of a president, if the union legislative or central government requires a change in the election process of a president, it cannot able to union legislative cannot able to change it without the assent of a state. So to change the election process of a president, a union legislative, which is nothing but a parliament. Parliament can be also called as a union legislative. So union legislative or parliament need a state legislative or state legislature's assent to amend the election process of a president. Likewise, there is a various articles for which the parliament needs a state assent to amend it. Amendment is nothing but a changing. So, third feature of a Indian constitution is a democratic and a republic. So, sovereignty rests with the people. So, if you take in India, people elects the leaders, people elects the member of a parliament, people elects the member of a legislative assembly. So the leaders were elected by the people. That is what is known as a sovereignty rests with the people, also known as a democratic one. People elects the leader, and it is known as a democratic. And then president is elected for a fixed term. If you take in India, president is a first citizen of India, and all the functions of a union government was taken in the name of a president. So he is not a hereditary one. Hereditary means that hereditary means on the same family rules the country, like in a Britain. In United Kingdom, if you take a king, consists of a one family. The persons from the same family rules the country forever. Okay, if a father acts as a king, and if he dies, then his wife will act as a queen. Then if they both die, their son will act as a king. So it was a hereditary family one. But in India, it is not a hereditary one. People elects the leader, which is nothing but a prime minister, a member of a legislative assembly, member of a parliament, and they elect the president, who has a fixed term. They cannot be able to continue forever, like in a Britain. Britain king is a king forever until he dies. But in India, president is only a president for 5 years, for at most 5 years. For a further continuance of office, he must need to be face another election, and he must need to be elected by again by the uh, electoral college. Okay. So president is elected only for a fixed term in India, which is nothing but a 5 years. So this was the uh, democratic and republic feature of an Indian constitution. Next one is a parliamentary form of a government. So Indian government is a parliamentary form of a government. What is the meaning of a parliamentary form of a government? Is that Council of a Minister and Prime Minister. So if we take in India, we are electing a MLA, we are electing a member of a parliament. So these member of a parliament and member of a legislative assembly elect the respective prime minister and respective chief ministers. Okay, so these prime minister and chief minister and council of ministers was drawn from a legislative. They are drawn from a state legislature, or they are drawn from a parliament. Either it may be upper house or a lower house, but a prime minister or a chief minister was from a legislative body of a government. But if you take in a USA, the president is not from a legislative organ. He was separately elected. He does not comes from a legislative body of a USA. He was separately elected. But in India, the prime minister and chief ministers and other ministers were from a legislative organs of the government, and they aid and advise the president. So president is a nominal head. He does not have any real powers. He is a ceremonial head. These council of a minister headed by the prime minister, who is drawn from a legislative organs, aid and advise the president. So whenever the president needs some advice, actually the president always need to function according to the aid and advice of the council of a minister and the prime minister. Next feature is that as both federal and the unitary feature. Federal feature is nothing but a division of powers. Distribution of a powers is a federal. In India, if we take, there is a different state governments. Okay, there is a lot of states, and every state have a separate governments, and there is also a union government, central government also is there. So that is what is known as a, I mean, the distribution of the powers is known as a federal one. Unitary ones means that all the powers were vested in a single organization or single body or single person. That is what is known as a unitary one. India has both the federal and the unitary feature. India has both the federal and the unitary feature. What are all the federal features of a Indian constitution is that it has a distribution of a powers. So some powers were vested in a state government and some powers were vested in a central government. Not all the powers were vested in a central government itself. There is a distribution of a power between the central and the state government. Next one is that independent judiciary. So there is an independent judiciary. Okay, judiciary was functioning, and there is a division of a power between the legislative and the executive organs and the judiciary. Okay, the members of a judiciary was not drawn from a legislative or executive organs. They were separate persons, and they functioning according to their rules and regulation, and it was independent from the legislative and the executive organs of a government. Next one is the written constitution. So written constitution means that a constitution was not able to frequently changed by the central government according to its wish. Okay, it need to be it was a written one. It cannot able to easily changeable. If some articles requires some articles of the constitution requires assent of a state legislature also. Okay, so it is a written one. So these are all the federal features of an Indian constitution. So what is the next about a unitary features of a Indian constitution? So single citizenship. So if you take India, there is only a single citizenship. But if you take a USA, there is a dual citizenship. One is a American citizen, is American citizen, and another one is he is a citizen to which state he belongs to. So there is a dual citizenship is a in the USA, but in India there is only a single citizenship, which is nothing but a Indian citizenship. Take for example, a person from a Maharashtra is also an Indian citizen. He cannot be termed as a Maharashtra citizen. A person from a Telangana is only an Indian citizen. He cannot be termed as a Telangana citizen. A person from a Tamil Nadu is also an Indian citizen. He cannot be termed as a Tamil Nadu citizen. So there is a single citizenship in an Indian constitution. All India services, high rank officers like IAS, IPS, IRS were functioning in every state, and these officers was trained and appointed by a central government. So there is a unitary feature. Central government has a large power. Then appointment of a governor. So every state has governor, and some two states also has the same governor. So these governors were appointed by the central government. So it is also a unitary feature. All these powers were vested in the central government itself. So these powers were vested in the all the powers were vested in the central government, or I power is vested in the central government according to the unitary features, and it is a federal feature. There is a distribution of a power between the central and the state government. Next feature is a fundamental rights. We people have a fundamental rights like equality. A person from any religion or any caste, either it may be a rich or poor, he has to be treated with the equality. Everyone is equal in India whenever according to the law. Whenever he faces a law, in front of a law, everyone is equal. Even the richest person, even everyone, even the politician, even the president, prime minister, everyone is under the law. So in front of law, everyone is equal. That is a right to equality. So there is a no discrimination in front of a law. Right to freedom. We people have a freedom of a speech. We can able to speech. We can able to speak anything with decency. Okay, so we can speak about anything with decency. So that is what is known as a freedom of a speech, and we are also have other freedoms like we can. If we decide to move from one place to another place, we can be easily able to move. So these are all the freedom for a person. So right against exploitation. Exploitation means that if a person was working in some factory, the factory has to give a wages to him. Okay, and the factory has to give a salary to such a person. The factory cannot be able to exploit that person. Next, a freedom of a religion. The person can be able to follow any religion in India. There is a no restriction for following a religion. Then cultural and educational rights. So cultural rights is that there is a different cultures in India. If you stay in one state, there is a different culture. In another state, there will be a different culture. We can follow any culture in India, and any people in India, any from persons from any caste, any religion, as a educational right. Okay, education is a fundamental right in India. Next is constitutional remedies. If any of these fundamental rights was abolished by the government, then the person can able to get a justice from a court, justice from a judiciary. This is what is known as a constitutional remedy. Next one is a directive principles of a policy. So directive principles of a state policy means that there is a principle for establishing a social and economic democracy, like equal pay for a men and a woman. These are all the welfare measures. Okay, then welfare measure for a aged person, welfare measure for a welfare measure for a more poor person. So these are all the welfare measures, and these welfare measures was directed by the directive principles. So there are a lot of directive principles, and we are going to see it in a detail in the upcoming videos. Okay. So fundamental next feature is a fundamental duties to be followed by the people. So we Indian people have some fundamental duties. We must need to perform them. So these fundamental duties was incorporated by the 42nd Amendment Act. Whenever the Constitution of India was framed, there is a no fundamental duty. It was only added during the 1956 by the amendment of a constitution, which is nothing but a 42nd Amendment of Act. By 42nd Amendment Act 1976, the government included the legislative organs or government included the fundamental duties to the Indian Constitution. The next feature that we are going to see is secular state. So India is a secular state. Why? Because there is no discrimination between the individuals on the basis of a religion. The person can follow any religion, but according to his wish, according to his or her wish, he can follow any religion, and there will be no discrimination by the government on the basis of a religion. This one is independent and integrated judiciary. If you take Indian judiciary is a independent one. A person from a legislative or executive organs of a government cannot be a form of a Indian judiciary. Indian judiciary, persons of a Indian judiciary is a separate one, and they function with the independence. Next, it was an integrated one. Integrated ones means that a Supreme Court is the top court. Okay, it provides guidance to the High Court, or it provides functioning. It provides some rules and regulations and functioning guidance to the High Court. The High Court provides a direction to the district court. The district court again provides a direction to the subordinate court. So this was a integrated one. Okay, the High Court must need to follow a rules and regulations are framed by the Supreme Court. So these courts were integrated. Okay, not an independent one. The courts, high courts in every state of India consists of a high court, but in some cases the two states consist of a same high court, and all these high courts need to follow the guidance provided by the Supreme Court, and all the district court need to follow the guidance provided by the High Court. So this was an integrated one, and and all these judiciary was a independent from a legislative and executive organ of a government. Next one is a single citizenship. So as already said that Indian citizen, India consists of a single citizenship only. A person is only a independent, sorry, the person is only a Indian citizen. He is not a citizen for his state. If you take USA, the person from a state, a person in the USA is a USA citizen, and is also a citizen of a state where he belongs to. But in India, he is only a Indian citizen. He is not a state citizen. There is no state citizenship. For example, there is no Maharashtra citizen. There is no Telangana citizen. There is no Uttar Pradesh citizen. There is no Tamil Nadu citizen. There is no Kerala citizen. There is only a Indian citizen. That is what is known as a single citizenship. Next one is a universal adult franchise. All adult citizens above 18 years have a voting rights. As we know that we are voting for we are voting to elect a MLA, MP, etc. Okay, so the person who is above the 18 years have a voting rights. Okay, all the person who is above 18 years and who gets a voter ID is eligible to vote in India. There is a no discrimination based on a religion, caste, etc. Next feature is a separation of power between different organs and between union and state government. So there is a separation of powers between the different organs such as legislative, executive, and judiciary organ. So there is a separation of a power, and there is also a separation of a power between a union government and a state government. Okay, a state government need to frame its own laws and regulations on the state subject, and the central government need to frame its laws on a union subject. Next is the emergency power. So his emergency power is to tackle the emergency situation like war or other external emergencies or other dangers. So during such things, the government uses these emergency powers. So we are going to see about emergency powers in detail in a further videos. Okay. Next, independent bodies. So the union government, there is a different organs in the government like union government, state government, and judiciary, then executive organ, legislative organ. There is also a independent bodies in the Indian constitution, which is nothing but a UPSC. They are functioning with the independence. They are not functioning under any organs of a government. They are functioning independently. Like the election commission also functioning with the functioning as an independent organ, and the comptroller and auditor general of India, and other organs are also there who are also functioning as an independent bodies. Okay, so these independent bodies, the reason for this independent functioning is to avoid any form of biased decisions. Okay, to avoid the biased decision, especially if you take election commission, the election commission should be unbiased. Okay, the elections commission should function with the unbiased manner. So to avoid the biased decision, these commissions were functioning as an independent bodies. Next is a this which is a three tier of a government. So if you take any country in the world, there is at a major thing there is only a two tier of a government. One is a union government or central government, and another one is a state government or a provincial government. But India is also consists of a two tiers of a government during the formation of a country or after during independence or during the framing of a constitution. India also has a two tier of a government. But during 1992, by incorporating the 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment Act, by means of an amendment of a constitution, the government or the government included the panchayat and municipalities also. Okay, if you take in any villages, we are having a panchayat, and in any towns, we are having a towns or cities, we are having a municipalities. So these are also the organs of a government. So that is what is the meaning of a three-tier government. One is a union government, and next is a state government, and another one is a local government, which is nothing but a panchayat and the municipalities. Okay, these are the essential salient features of a Indian constitution. Okay, thank you.